All right. Hi, everybody. Today we are going to talk about data science career, and we're doing a Ask Me Anything. A lot of people ask me, Andreas, tips around data science, data scientist careers, and as I'm the engineer, I'm not the super expert in this, so I brought somebody on who is really good at this. Andrew Jones. Andrew worked at Amazon, worked at PlayStation. He has his own academy or his own program, Data Science Infinity, where he teaches data science. And basically my counterpart in the data scientist realm. So let's get him in and say hello, everybody.
Hello. How you doing, Andreas?
Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the stream. Great that you're here.
Thank you.
Let's quickly say to everybody, if you have questions, everybody, put them in the chat. Andrew and we are going to watch the chat and we're going to answer your questions all around. So let's focus this on data science, data scientist topics, not engineering today. And yeah, Andrew, for everybody who doesn't know you, that is usually in my bubble, can you say a few words about yourself, about what you do?
Yeah. So my name's Andrew Jones. I worked as a data scientist or a data analyst for a long time, and then, like Andreas said, I was very fortunate to have worked for Amazon for a number of years, Sony PlayStation for a number of years, where I got to build and prototype machine learning based features for the PlayStation 5, which was really cool. Some of those have gone on to be patented by Sony, and then I shifted over to run my own data science program, which Andreas alluded to a moment ago, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years now. That's called Data Science Infinity, and it's built out of the fact that so many data science programs were leading people to dead ends. They weren't teaching the right things, they weren't teaching people in the right way, and they weren't helping to actually successfully move themselves into their careers, into a career that they love. So that's what I do all day, every day, and I love it. It's a field that I love, and I found that I really love teaching. So, like Andreas says, we're kind of counterparts. We talk to each other a lot about running a program. It's a lot of hard work, but we both enjoy it, I think. So that's the main bit.
Well, that's true. I think we started around the same time as well. Like, what was that? 2020 something around that. 2020, 2021.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. You were still at Bosch, right? When you started it, you kind of were doing both. Yeah, I had to. Well, I was working for PlayStation as a consultant, and the whole marketplace of consulting and contracting changed in the UK, and therefore companies were just getting rid of their contractors. So I ended up moving away from Sony at that point, and that was the moment that I said, I should finally do this thing that I've always wanted to do, which was do my own thing. I had all this code and all of this, these projects that I'd built, and I thought there must be some value in this, and I'd been very fortunate in a lot of those companies as well too. And I think this is the key thing that made me believe that I could do this. Was I just happened to interview and screen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of data scientists, data analysts, data engineers during my time, and that was such an eye-opening part of my time there that led me to kind of, I guess, understand firsthand or see firsthand what the differences are between people who impress in interviews and land the role versus those who struggle through it and maybe miss out time and time and time again. And that piece of information, or those learnings, are the fundamental part of Data Science Infinity, at least, that kind of set it apart, in my view, from some other programs.
Yeah, it's so what, because I'm guessing you had the option back then to go more into consulting or go towards the educational route. Like,
yeah,
was that the easy decision, or?
I had always wanted to do something myself. I'd always wanted to own my own. I think my initial dream, let's say 2014, 2015, through that sort of period of time, was to have my own business, because I just wanted to. That probably in my head existed as like a data analytics consultancy where I'd go and have clients and I'd work on projects for them. I'd never really thought about creating a program or becoming a kind of a teacher, I guess, until near where it happened, because I was just thinking, what is the next step? Like I said, I'd sort of, through reasons out of my own control, I had left or had been dropped from Sony because they were jettisoning all of their contractors, and therefore that was the time that it just felt right. But yeah, I thought about doing more consultancy in some shape or form. I was interviewing for other permanent roles, like head of data science roles at startups and things, which sounded really cool. I went through the interview process of a few of these companies, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get back at, I couldn't start again at the bottom, learning a company and everything. That I thought this has to be the opportunity I take to do my own thing. And I didn't know if it would work. It was a big plunge into the unknown. And it's been a huge learning curve. I won't deny that or tiptoe around that. The first year especially was extremely hard. The data science stuff itself was kind of the easy bit. It was running a business and knowing how to talk to people and sell to people and knowing how to support students the best that I can. That was the learning curve, and I've slowly gotten better at that. I'm in no way perfect, but I feel more confident doing it, I think.
That's true. Also, when it's your own company and when you are the teacher, you never think, oh, now I'm very, very good.
Oh yeah, no, not for a second.
There's a question from Reshma here. Let's take this a bit more general, because the question is, are there any openings right now? How do you see right now the data science job market? Because we are in a bit of a downturn for some time.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a few different facets that I've seen, say, since the start of this year. I think the first thing that I think we did see a bit of a downturn. We saw a bit of a stall, but something that was interesting was at the start of the year, there were so many layoffs happening from Meta and Amazon and generally speaking, the sort of FANG companies. They were laying off all sorts of data professionals right across the board. And that was huge. That was huge. There were so many people being laid off, but that took the headlines. That's what everybody thought the market was, that everybody was jettisoning data scientists and data engineers and data analysts. But it wasn't completely true. And there's some really good charts that you see online about what was happening at FANG, and they were downsizing. But the rest of the industry was actually going along steadily or in growth. But you didn't know about that, right? Because every headline around data jobs was driven by FANG, because that was really big news. So if you weren't working at one of those companies, you were fine. And there were lots of jobs at those companies. And that's not going to change anytime soon, because they need people to do data analytics, data science, data engineering. That's never going to change. So at the start of the year, that was true, but it was kind of clouded by the FANG layoffs. I think the next thing that's come along is generative AI and the hype around that stealing jobs or taking jobs. I think that hype peaked a couple of months ago, where people were saying, look what it can do, look at the code it can write, look what it can do with a CSV of data, it can analyze it. It can. There is some huge potential there. It can write code. It can do things with data sets now, and it's getting better. But what humans can do is so much more nuanced. Humans have that much deeper understanding of where the company's going and why, what we need to do next, what are the considerations we need to take on. I genuinely believe that there's so much potential in generative AI as we talk about it. I don't use the term AI on its own, because I think that's not the right term. I think it's generative AI. There's so much potential. But I think that's actually going to create more jobs going forward, because all of the spotlight have been put on data, on machine learning, on AI in general. All of these things are getting so much more attention now. Companies are starting to understand that there's potential for them if they do start saving their data, cleaning their data, looking for value within their data. that has become central to the mainstream media almost now. And I think that is going to grow the field more than we ever think. I don't think AI is going to take any jobs, to be honest. It may automate a few things, but the field itself is going to navigate that like it always does. I mean, we've been talking about no-code solutions taking jobs. We've been talking about AutoML taking jobs. Since I started in the field, there's always been something coming which is going to take the jobs, and it never has. The field's always navigated it, and there's always been growth. And I think we've probably seen a little bit of a flat line. But what I'm seeing at the moment in my feed is it's picking up again. I really see that. My feed is full of people looking for data scientists and data analysts and data engineers, or people landing roles as those things. And I think that's going to continue to grow. And then obviously in January, February, March of next year, we always see a bit of an upstream of people looking for candidates as they're looking to set, the next year's agenda or the next year's goals, and they will need those people. So I think it's actually in really good shape. I think there's been a few bits of hype and maybe a few things grabbing the headlines, which have made it seem like it's not as strong as it maybe is.
Yeah, so it was basically more of a big tech bubble, and now we're still steadily in a good position with data science jobs. As you said, like generative AI generates also new opportunities. Here's a question from Gandip here. Like, were the next career options open because of LLMs? What do you think will stick for the next 3 years or something?
Yeah.
Is there something, or is this also more of a bubble where
my personal view is that it's both. It's part hype on one side, and on the other side, there's huge potential. There's both. I think LLMs, generative AI, are going to change the landscape a little bit. They're gonna make it's gonna make things easier. So from a coding point of view, the access we have to code now, we used to use Stack Overflow to get snippets of code and then modify them and figure out how they fit into the puzzle of what we're trying to do. We now have something that's much more flexible, much more powerful than that. But I've tried to, I code in Python, I build machine learning models, et cetera, but I tried to build, as a bit of an example, a web app using like a web app framework because I thought that would be a cool project to just try and do. And even though ChatGPT was giving me all the code that I needed and it was explaining it to me, I still struggled, and I couldn't quite get there in terms of getting this thing built. And to me, that was a really good moment where I understood that I don't think it's going to come and take jobs. Like people can't just sit at ChatGPT and become an amazing data scientist. There's so much more to the job than just putting code into a box and hitting run. That's such a small part. And I think that the technical bar has been lowered by something like ChatGPT and models similar to it. But there's so much more to being a good data scientist from the point of view of a company and driving a company forward and driving value. That's just one tool in the toolkit, and I think that's gonna increase people's speed at delivery. But I don't think it's going to take any jobs.
But on the what I mean is, on the other side, like when you think about the career right now, somebody is working or trying to get into data science or is a data scientist, and they hear all this talk about generative AI and so on. Does that really, or how could somebody leverage that now in the point of they are looking for a job there? Is there something specific, or should they focus on specific topics?
So if you're trying to get into data science and data analytics, my advice would be to keep your eye on that stuff, touch on it, watch videos on it, keep learning, keep close to it, just so you know what's happening in that landscape. But so to jump back a step, for Data Science Infinity, which is all about trying to help people get into the field of data science. So I have a network of around 200 hiring managers and recruiters in the field that I talk to on a regular basis to get a feel for what skills and tools they're actually hiring for in practice. So what are the skills that they really need new data scientists and analysts to have? And it's interesting what they say about the skills and tools that they need from new data scientists. It doesn't match the hype. Nobody is hiring new data scientists and new data analysts to come in and work on generative AI or to work with large language models, or even really referencing ChatGPT, because there's a lot of concern around how companies actually work with ChatGPT from privacy and security points of view. The reality is the core skill set that people need hasn't really changed. Fundamental things like knowledge around SQL and Python, Tableau for data visualization, things like understanding how to use GitHub to some reasonable level so you can collaborate with your team, or you can, move things towards a productionized point of view. Those things are still what are in demand. So if you're thinking, I really want to get into data science or AI or whatever you want to call it, I need to go and learn all about how to use ChatGPT for data science. That's not the reality. That may continue to crop up and we may see more things coming out, but they're most likely going to be tools that we can use that you won't be building yourself. 99% of data scientists won't be building those tools themselves. They'll be making use of them to add value within the company that they work for. So it's a little bit of a misconception that AI is the thing we all need to focus on, because hiring managers aren't really asking for that. If you push them and make them be honest about it, that's not really what they need. They still need those core skill sets, and then all the softer skills that go with it, of course. That's really what people still need for the vast majority of companies.
Interesting. I had a feeling that it's around that. So you said the basics, focus on the stuff that everybody needs. So how do people get the first job in that role in data science? How do you see your students succeed here in this?
So I think there's two kind of parts to it. Well, there's three kind of parts to it. There's learning the skills and the tools, and I think you can do that anywhere, to be honest. You need to know what skills and tools you should learn. I think that's something which is key. There's an ocean of things you could learn, but if you go and try and learn all of it, you'll learn on too thin a level. You won't have enough depth in that knowledge. So you kind of need to know which boxes most hiring managers are needing, and I mentioned a few of those just before. So in terms of what you need to learn, you do need to focus on those and get a good understanding of those in a way that you can apply in the real world. I think you then need to then translate that into showcasing those skills, and that's a really big part of the puzzle that people miss. So you can learn all the skills, but actually getting a job is kind of a separate project of its own. Getting your resume in a way that into a position where it stands out from other candidates, or even where it just clearly demonstrates what you can bring to the role in a way that the hiring manager or the recruiter will want to have that second conversation with you or get on the phone to you. That is an art in itself these days because of the competition for roles. Creating a portfolio is super important for most roles, especially if it's your first role or if you're transitioning from another field. That's really, really important. But again, a lot of people maybe don't quite understand how to do that really well in a way that will make them stand out. Because the reality is, for most data science roles, you've got 50, 100, 150 people applying for it. You need to be in the top few. So you need to make it really easy for whoever's reading it, if that's the hiring manager or the recruiter. You need to make it really easy for them to quickly see what you bring in your communication skills and your problem solving system, etc. So there's a bit of an art to that. And I think that's a big part of what I help people with in the program, I think, is getting over the line. So not only like here's the skills you need to learn based on me talking to hiring managers, but then how do you showcase that successfully? I think that's the key bit. The landing the role is almost the harder bit these days.
Yeah, that's true. It's also what I see from my students. Let me show you a few comments here, everybody. Let me show you a few comments. And that's also what I hear a lot. And basically what we were talking about. So there's like one that says every job posting in North America has like 500, I guess that's applications, or exactly 99% are looking, not exactly, but are looking for experience, right? I think these are the things that we see, and unfortunately, you need to work on your application. You need to work on your showing your skills, right? Like Dilep says here, my question is how to get a job as an entry level with 2 internships.
Yeah, obviously you've learned the skills. If you've done that, you've done internships, you probably have a lot of the skills. It really comes down to some networking. So the fact that applying on job boards is such a tricky thing to do. You put your application in and often you get nothing back. And I think that's quite demoralizing for people at times. And that's where you see people saying, you know, I've applied for 200 roles and I've got nothing back. Something you can do. So networking is a good one. Obviously, you have to understand that every time you reach out to somebody, you're not necessarily going to hear back, but keep at that. You know, showcase what you can do online, build a brand. That can always help. I think, building your own brand is a good one. Networking is a good one. Another thing that you can do, if you can find recruitment agents that are in your area, that can be really beneficial because you may still go to them and they may say, look, there's not much that fits for you right now, but you're still going to have that feedback loop. And that's a lot nicer of a process than just clicking apply on buttons and getting nothing back. That is a really hard place to be. Whereas if you can get a recruitment agent, their job is to try and land you a role, because if they land you a role, they get commission in some shape or form. So they may not have a job for you right now, but what they're going to be able to do, hopefully, is give you some very quick feedback on where they think your resume or your skill set is maybe misaligned with the jobs that they have on their books. And that can be good because you can then go and refine those. There's something there to base your next step of where do I need to go? I need to maybe, I haven't worked with Python yet, and all the jobs are saying Python. So that's the feedback the recruiter gives you. So you can go and do that rather than not knowing where you need to go next and just trying to learn whatever you can. That's a really empty process. Whereas if you can get somebody who can just bounce ideas off you, I think that's a much more, you won't be applying for as many roles. It's like a smaller net, but the chances of you getting one of those is much greater.
Do you think the company size matters? Because when I look at my experience back in the days at Bosch, like these huge companies, they can actually afford to hire somebody and to train somebody, to hire freshers, right? And when you look at the startups or the smaller companies, they usually immediately want somebody who is up to speed and can do day-to-day work. Right. Do you think that's something that could also make a difference? What's your
there's truth to that. Definitely. A bigger company is going to have a team of people that you can fit in. Like you say, they can, if they see potential in you and maybe that you tick most of the core skills that they need, but maybe not everything, they're going to be able to bring you on knowing that they've seen something in you, the way you solve problems, the way you make decisions, justifying which tool you might use and which you might not, things which mean they can see that if they put something in front of you, even if you haven't done that exact thing before, that they can be confident that you could go and take that on. In a bigger company, you're gonna have more chance than that. Yeah, working in a startup is similar to contracting or consulting. There's a lot more expectation that you need to hit the ground running. So that's probably a harder thing to do for your very first role. But it's not unheard of. I've got people in Data Science Infinity who've gone straight into startups. But again, I guess that's I'm not trying to sell the course, but that is what we're doing. We're really, it's a paid course, but you get the value from that because everything is pointing you towards success. There's a reason why it exists in the way that it does, is because that's what we're getting you to. We're pointing everything the skills to the help with the interviews and everything towards that goal. But yeah, bigger companies are always going to be easier to get into, I think, when you're starting out.
Here was one question. I'm a current student in data science. I'm looking for a job, actively applying as well. Any suggestions?
Kind of just what we've been saying, really.
Internships?
Internships can be good. Just keep building projects that you know in your spare time, building projects that you can use to showcase your value. Get other people to have a look over your resume, maybe somebody that you can lean on who may have hired some people in the space, even if they're not looking at the moment. If they can give you 5 minutes to look over it, to see the sort of language that you're using, that can be a big thing, because the famous example is, recruiters only look at your CV for however many seconds or whatever. I mean, there's that's different, but there is some truth to it. So you do need to hit them hard straight away with the fact that you meet the criteria for this role, and therefore you go in the pile of people we might talk to on the phone for the next step. So you have to hit them in the face early with the right message. And the only other thing I'd say would be, just don't lose your confidence. Very few people land a data science role straight away. It's not an easy thing to do. But don't lose your confidence. The worst thing you can do is lose your confidence, because confidence is what gets you through the interview process. If you're going into interviews feeling like you're going to come out with another rejection, then you probably will. It's a hard thing to do. But even if you miss out on a job, just try not to think of it as a rejection. Think of it as, one step closer to landing that role that you do want, because there is going to be a role where you fit the bill and the company sees you as the person who they want to come and do it, and that's the perfect fit. And you're sort of one step closer to that every time. Nobody goes straight in and lands a good data science role first time. It's very, very rare. So just keep going.
Yeah. I don't know how it is with data scientists, but for engineers, for instance, there's the problem that a lot of engineer roles are not titled data engineer. There's something like cloud engineer, cloud developer, or, and a lot of these things where you see from the topics, when you look at the description of the job, there is data engineering in there, but they're not called like this. So do you have something like that in data science as well?
Yeah. Data science is quite a broad term these days. It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean anything ranging from something quite heavy in data engineering right through to something quite heavy in data analytics. And they're very different fields almost. They're related, but they're different. But data science has become quite a popular term. So people like to use it because people want to have that term. They want to have that title. So the result of that is that jobs name the roles data scientist to try and attract more people, and it became, it snowballed a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity around that. I mean, there's a bigger topic there, which is that, and I was saying to you earlier, Andreas, I'm going to Dubai in October to talk at the GITEX conference, and I'm talking on exactly this, the fact that, like generally speaking, as a field, the way that we think about our data pipelines, it's come so far in the last few years. We're getting really good at this now. Not everyone, but we're getting there. The machine learning pipelines for getting models into production, we're thinking really hard about this, and we've progressed so far. And the hiring process has just gone nowhere. It's still garbage. People don't put enough emphasis on a sensible hiring process where a couple of people, say HR, a senior member of the team, and the hiring manager sit down in a room for an hour and actually think hard about, like, what do we need this person to do? Where are we going on our data journey? Like, what do we need to make a job description that's actually accurate, that can actually sell the job in a way where the right people know to apply and people who aren't a fit maybe don't apply. So therefore, it makes your whole job easier, and you don't have to spend all of this time and all of this money as a company very inefficiently trying to hire people. There's so many good candidates in the market at the moment, and there's these hiring managers saying they can't find any talent. That's not the problem of either side. That's the process in the middle. It's not coming. It's so frustrating to see that we haven't progressed that. So I have a lot of sympathy for people looking to get roles, because a lot of job descriptions just put the tech stack, whatever data sciencey type words they can think of, they seem to put it on the job description, and people don't really feel confident applying for it. They don't know if that's the right fit for them.
But it's also, when I look at engineer jobs, very often it's absolutely overpowered what is in the description. Like, they want everything and they want you to be an expert in everything, although they most likely need 25% of what is in the description. Right? And then people get disencouraged, like, oh, I'm never going to make this, so I'm not going to apply. Also, when I read some job descriptions, I'm thinking, like, I could never land this job myself. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly the same in data science. Yeah, I don't know. The amount of time and money it costs to hire someone in the first place, you've got to make that more efficient. That should be a huge priority for a company, to make that more efficient, because it's such a waste of time. All of the hours of people sitting in interviews with people that aren't the right fit for the job. But then also, if you make a bad hire, we know the cost of that's huge as well. So I don't know why we're just sitting stationary on this. I see some good job descriptions. I do see a few, but the vast majority are still awful. It's like people are just trying to do it as fast as possible.
But is the cost really that high if you hire? Because you usually have like probation in the job, right? Depending on the company, can be 3 months, and like make a decision quick and decide for somebody.
You've got that person who you've hired. That's, say, 2 months of them working on a project which has some value attached to it, and that's 2 months where that project doesn't move forward where you need it to be. Or perhaps, that person just comes in, and because they didn't understand what the company was like, they leave for some sort of more personal reasons, things that could have been found out in the hiring process. I think there's so much more efficiency we can get in that process.
That's true. I see where you're coming from. What I meant was, if the hiring process, like, because sometimes after the process, they still have 15 people where they need to choose from, and they take forever to make a decision. Like, hire somebody, move on, and if it doesn't work out after a month, because you're going to see very quickly if somebody fits or doesn't fit, and has the skills or doesn't have the skills. So, there was one question very early at the beginning. I'm not sure if we can answer this exactly, but the overall topic of what if somebody wants to, with a longer career, wants to change into data science. That's I think that's interesting. Career switch advice: 15 year of like charity management strategy experience, 4 years self-employment. How can I explain the background potentially useful in data engineering or data science? It's a very specific question, because we would now need to go into Andrew and what he does. But if somebody wants to get into it, how can people show this or yeah?
So, if I'm honest, the vast majority of people that join Data Science Infinity are people who are looking to pivot their career over to data science or data analytics from somewhere else. So the person who asked that question, you are like the typical person that would join the program. So the interesting thing is that I get from the way you are asking the question that it feels hard thinking of these other skills that you have, trying to utilize them to sell yourself as a data engineer or a data scientist. But that's somewhat limited to the technical skill set. So you may not, based on those other roles, have built up the specific technical skills that you would want for a data science role or a data engineering role. But that's only so much of what a data scientist or data engineer is. There's so many other skills that make you good at what you do. So in data science, we talk about the sort of technical skills and then the softer skills. And I think what we're going to see over the next few years is those softer skills are going to become more and more and more important, or at least they're going to be the differentiators between good and great data scientists, because the technical bar is being lowered by things like ChatGPT, but that can't replicate what a human can do in terms of those softer skills. So if you learned the technical skills and you really just need to spend some time building those up, and you start building yourself a portfolio of data science specific projects where you can showcase that you can use those technical skills, then you're actually in a pretty strong position, because you have years of experience of those softer skills. So talking to stakeholders, convincing stakeholders, communicating the impact of things, thinking about how to set up a project so it goes from inception right through to delivery, communicating successfully with people above you in the business. All of these things are vital to being a good data scientist. So while you may have to just work on the technical side of it, you're actually in a really good position, and you're in a better position than somebody who's just fresh out of university or college looking to come in, because you have all of those skills already. It's really just the technical skills are also, they're just tools that you pick and choose to use when you need them. The skill around deciding which ones of those tools you should use, do we need to go super complicated here, or do we need to do something simple and get it done quickly? Those are the important skills. Those are the skills which actually deliver projects at the end of the day. And so I would see somebody like yourself as a really good candidate to successfully move into the field, even though you might not see that yourself. I've seen it time and time and time again with people in the course who had the same concerns, because, it does seem like a big jump over, and it does seem intimidating technically, but the technical things, if taught well, aren't hard. They're not too hard for anybody. It's that there's a lot of bad teaching that's gone on, around statistics and coding and stuff. People teach with complexity for complexity's sake, and people struggle. But if you learn with intuition and understanding and application, you'd fly. I guarantee it.
I think also one error that people are doing is they are trying to make a switch in both, in the actual job, so in the technical role, and in the domain where they work. So like for Andrew here, he said he's working in charity management and strategy. I'm not sure which companies or which domain he's been working. Like, maybe it would be best to also start searching for a role in that domain, a data science role.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Or upskill yourself on the technical side of it and keep working in that. There's always ways you can implement the technical skills into your current role. And we're going to see that more and more and more as more roles become at least data centric, let alone maybe data science, but data centric. There's always going to be ways, if you're in your current role, but you've gone off and you've learned the technical skills, and when to implement those and when to not implement those, and you're the leader of everyone in that space because you've got those technical skills, you're going to be in a really good position to accelerate your career even where you are, or maybe even move up, because you can then manage a team of people who do what you do, but also alongside the data teams who are basically going to be intertwined with every team in the next few years, I would say.
Yamina was asking here, like, what kind of soft skills do you think are super important, I guess?
So for me, obviously, like, communication is a huge one. I think it's hard to describe exactly what good communication is, but for me, it's being able to explain technical concepts in a way that non-technical people can understand. Because if you are a data scientist or a data engineer, your stakeholders are going to be marketing or product or management of some form, and they don't necessarily come from the technical background that you come from. So you need to be able to explain what you're doing in a way that they understand, and in the context of where the business is going. Like, why is this actually solving what we're doing? What happens when this other thing takes place, technically speaking. That's that pathway of starting with intuition and working to explain that to stakeholders who give the green light for your product to then go into production or whatever it may be. That's what unlocks the business value actually becoming something real. But it all starts back at that point at the front, which is the technical part needs to be moved all the way to production, but that needs to be explained in a way where people who aren't technical know what it is what it does and what happens in different scenarios. So I think that, taking technical things and turning them into something intuitive, that's the skill for me. Storytelling, being able to think about something as a narrative, same sort of thing what I was just mentioning, taking complexity and helping other people understand it, but as a story. Decision making is a key one, and this is something that I make sure when people in the program are writing up their projects, they showcase not just I did this and then this and then this, but we had several options available to us in terms of whatever it may be, machine learning models that we could have possibly used. Here's how we decided which one to go forward with. And that all comes down to me, what I call a problem-solving system. There's nothing specific about what that is or isn't, but the reality is you're seldom going to get hired into a job where on day one, the project you're working on is exactly the same as something you've worked on in the past. It's going to be different because the company's different, the data's different, the regulations or whatever it is around the industry you're in are different. So what you need to give hiring managers is the confidence that if they were to give you something, you may not have done it before, but they can see that you can move from inception to, or from the start to the end of that process, because you have the ability to make decisions, based on some framework. You've got the ability to solve problems as they come up. I think that is so powerful for people to see as a hiring manager or an interviewer, to see that skill. I know their softer skills are harder to explain than technical skills, and sometimes they can be harder to practice, but they need just as much time. They need just as much emphasis when you're learning, I think. So, going to webinars about it, or joining a course all about it, whatever it may be, they should take just as much of your time investment, I think, as the technical skills.
Yeah. I think that was who was that? Yamina. I think that was a pretty good explanation. So if you have more questions around that, let us know. One thing I saw that twice here. How do you see the data engineer role in data science or for data scientists? Like, how interesting is that?
So it kind of depends a little bit. So if you're at a bigger company, it's more likely that there'll be a data science team and a data engineering team, and they'll be separate. They'll obviously sit side by side because they're very related. But if you're hired as a data scientist, your primary task is going to be sort of data science skills, and then the data engineering team will take things from there, or they'll be the one providing the data in a certain form that you need it to be in to do what you need to do. There's been a lot in the last year online, I think, where the premise is that all data scientists need to also become data engineers. That's kind of true in a very small team where you have more of a remit and you might be responsible for a lot more. But if you are being honest, I mean, if you want to do something really well, you need to be focused on that. You can't spread your resource everywhere. It's like saying that a data scientist also needs to become a marketer, expert marketer, because they work alongside that team. I don't think you have enough resource to do everything all at once, unless you're in a smaller company and you need to. But in saying that, it's very important for data scientists to know what to consider when working with data engineers. So you need to understand the things they need, and you need to be able to explain what you need from them, because you just need to understand their role more than be able to do their role, I think. But yeah, it really varies role to role a little bit.
Okay. And by the way, quick question, Andrew, for you with my my audio and so on, is it still okay? Can you still did you see any changes in the quality of my video?
Not sure. I don't think so.
Strange, because
Maybe slightly.
I get these strange messages here that my connection is unstable. Very strange. Okay. Andrew, how much time do we have? Because we're already 45 minutes in. Do we want to go?
I have nothing else to do. Well, I obviously have stuff to do, but no, I'm good
No,
to keep going. If there's a few more questions, I'm more than
yeah.
happy to help out.
No no appointments here after.
No.
Um. Oh yeah, that's a good one here. And for us, this is a question that is important for us as well. And I think we too are struggling with this, but also everybody else. How can you maintain relevance in the field of data science if they are not employed in a machine learning focused organization? And for us, I would say for us from the education standpoint, we are not employed within companies. We know roughly what's going on, but we're not working in these jobs. So what's your view on this for us and for Christina here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and it's something like I agree, Andreas. If we're honest, we think about as well, right? Because we are. So for me, I teach the skills that are necessary to become a new data scientist. So those are things that I, to a reasonable degree, know how to do already. I wouldn't teach them otherwise. But yeah, I'm not actively in a role doing things at the cutting edge anymore, and therefore it is a consideration. How do you keep up with that? I try to go to webinars and I try to keep reading things, but I'm not. There is a difference between that and doing it in practice. I've probably been a bit guilty of not doing it in practice so much. But yeah, I guess just finding people online who you can learn from, around those concepts. I'm lucky in the fact that I do have this network of, the whole premise of what I teach is based around hiring managers and recruiters, the conversations that I'm having. So that kind of keeps me close to the reality of what's being asked for, at least, in early stage data science. But it kind of depends. The data science and data engineering equally, there's so many things you can do in the field. You can't keep up with everything, and you shouldn't try to keep up with everything. You should be really focused on what are the things that you need in your role to be successful. And if you're not working at the moment, I would try and base that around like, what are the things that I'm most passionate about, because that helps the learning process so much. You can't sit and just learn things that you don't care for. It's really hard to do that. So if you're not working at the moment and you want to keep up with certain there's computer vision, there's natural language, there's everything, and just go down the path of the one that you find the most passion for, and therefore I think that will lead you to something eventually. If you're looking for a role, if you go down that route and you specialize, you'll hopefully be able to find something that you really enjoy. That would be my thoughts. What do you think, Andreas?
For me, it was always like trying to soak up as many as I can. Like, look, what are the trends right now on social media? What are people talking about? Which new tools are there? Playing around with stuff. That's for me. I'm a hands-on guy, so there's an interesting tool. People are talking about it. Let's just see how this works. And this way,
you've got to be careful though, don't you? Because there are so many new tools that are coming out. Like I was saying earlier, I was at Big Data London, the conference last week, and the number of vendors with new tools, whether it's around the data itself, or whether it's around machine learning, or whether it's around generative AI. I mean, nobody can know what all of those things do, and nobody has a need for all of those things. So you kind of do need to pick and choose. And if I have to pick and choose, I'm just going to go with where my passion lies, I think, because that makes it easier for me to properly go down that path.
Yeah. You need to be careful. Yeah. Which type of projects should we add in a resume as a data science student for internships or general? I think.
Something that you get a lot is you will do a course and there'll be a single capstone project, for example. I personally advise people not to do just one capstone project. I think that can be a little bit limiting at times. I like a more varied portfolio of projects. Don't think you need to use excessively complicated data or complex algorithms or massive amounts of data. Your portfolio is there to quickly and easily sell yourself, to show that you can do interesting and impactful things. A hiring manager and a recruiter is not going to spend half a day trying to figure out what you're doing. So you're better off doing a varied portfolio of, say, 5 to 10 projects that cover some of the key skills that you want to showcase. So maybe a project using Tableau for data visualization. This would be more if you're going for a data science, data analyst role. So something with data visualization, a couple using machine learning perhaps, but different parts of machine learning. So a supervised learning task and maybe something to do with clustering. And maybe if you want to go a bit more advanced, something to do with deep learning. In Data Science Infinity, we even do projects like there's a project in your portfolio which is all around A/B testing and hypothesis testing, because everybody just does machine learning projects. So but A/B testing and hypothesis testing is almost on the task list of any hiring manager who wants a data scientist to come in, because it's such a common thing that needs to be done. So showcase that. If you can. Something like SQL is hard to put into a portfolio project. So sometimes what I advise people in the course is so we have a portfolio site that you add your projects to, but make one of them less of a project, but more of a written a written article about how to solve a certain problem that you might get in coding interviews a lot, or something about the order of execution, just explaining it. So it ticks the box for being there, but it's not like a project where there's like a start, a middle, and an end. It's kind of just to showcase SQL on your portfolio. We do one, like there's a time series one that we do using causal impact analysis, which is really interesting because that's quite a common thing people are looking for data scientists, is to understand, measure and quantify what happened to some rate after an event happened, whether that's like a mailer going out, a campaign going out, or whether it's some moment in time on the stock market or whatever it is. Another really cool one that people don't think about is like association rule learning, or recommendation systems, but nothing complex, just something simple to show that you've got your foot in the door there, and that you could do something along those lines or build on that. But yeah, like I say, I think a varied portfolio of a few different things, and you can pick and choose for different roles, is better than just one capstone, which is just pages and pages and pages long.
Okay. Oh, makes sense. Let's take a last question here. What was it? I missed it. Here. That's a nice one for the end. Are certifications compulsory for freshers who are joining business intelligence? Or let's make this a more general. How do you see certifications in this?
So certifications can only be a good thing, right? If the only problem with certifications is that you go and get the certificate, but you don't learn the stuff that got you the certificate. So say you just complete some Udemy course or Coursera course or whatever it is, you get the certificate because you've watched all the content. That in itself to you is not useful. Nobody else knows that, but you know that, and it means that you can't apply those things. I think be really proud of the certifications that you've earned. You get a lot of people online on LinkedIn or wherever else saying certifications should be left off your resume and they don't hold any weight. I think that's true, but only up to a certain point. So what I advise people with their resume is to put maybe the maximum 3 most relevant certifications that you've earned for that particular role. So put the name of the certification in, but underneath that, give some context around what it was you got from it and what you can do with the skills that you got from it. So I call it actionable learnings. So what can you action based on the learnings that you got from that certificate? And whether that's a Udemy course or it's a course from a university or whatever it is, a couple of sentences which change that from just words on paper to the hiring manager or whoever's reading your resume or your CV going, oh, I can see what you've learned and I can see why that's valuable. That's another little sort of cog in their brain turning of the value that you can bring. So I think they're good to do because they're learning, and learning is where you get the skills to then go and get the job and add value in the job. Just add them on your resume in the right way to make sure that value comes across, not just a list of certificates. That gives nobody any information about you.
Mm. So where should people add them? At the bottom somewhere, or?
Yeah. So generally, say you were transitioning over to data science from another industry. Say you were a teacher. I'm just making this up. You're a teacher and you want to move into data science. You've gone through a course like my one and you've built up the portfolio of projects. I would structure your resume. You've got like a motivation at the top. You know, what do you do? You're very short. The next thing I'd probably do would put your skills, you know, a list of the key skills, because you want to be ticking those boxes with whoever's reading it, making sure that instantly they see that you're somebody who has the skills they need. I would then put your projects, unless you're coming from a role that has some data science relevance. I'll put your projects, and then I'd put your work experience, and then I'd probably put your certificates, your certifications and courses. I probably wouldn't move them up higher than that, but because they're less proof of something, but they can still be very powerful. So yeah, I sort of, everybody's resume I do differently, because people are coming from different places and people have different strengths and weaknesses and stuff, and we want to be hitting the reader with as much good stuff at the start as we can, so that it's sort of different for everyone.
All right, Andrew, let's stay. We almost talked an hour. Everybody else who had questions here, if you want, get into touch with Andrew. Comment under Andrew's post on LinkedIn, right? I think that's the best way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Check out Data Science Infinity. I'm guessing you also have an email there, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, if the website is datascienceinfinity.com with hyphens in between the words, and then on there you can get in touch with me. I've got like an hour-long training session that you can go and watch as well, which is kind of me covering all of this stuff in a little bit more detail, which can be really good if you're thinking about transitioning over, but you're not quite sure what it is you need to do or what you should be focused on. That could be really useful. And then just get in touch either via LinkedIn. So you probably need to connect or follow me to be able to send a message, I think. Or you can contact me on the website. So, but I love talking data science, so I will absolutely get back to people who message me.
Yeah, I have the link in the description of this video. So
amazing.
Check that out. All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Talking to you.
Great to be here.
We'll talk soon. And thanks everybody for being here, having asked us these awesome questions. See you next time. Bye.